With the advent of the Lions of the North DLC, a lot of things have changed in EU4, and one of those things is the difficulty of the nations in the game itself. That's why today I want to revisit what are the hardest nations to play in EU4, and some of these are going to be a little bit more obvious, but some of these are going to be very different, and don't ask me how many countries are going to be on this list, probably 20 or something, I have no idea. I'm not going to count, you do the counting and you let me know after, okay? Exiled in the southern bits of the Iberian Peninsula, the nation of Granada has a pretty ambitious start, and I say ambitious because it is a hard start, but at the same time it can also be an insanely easy start if you know what you're doing. I have a video on Granada explaining in detail how you should be managing the early part of the campaign. Essentially, you start with 4 provinces here, and you have a core on the province of Ceuta, which belongs to the Portuguese at the beginning, as well as a truce with Castile until 48 February. It's almost a guarantee that in February 48 or a little bit later, the Castilians will attack you. They have a vital interest in these provinces right here, and that means that they will do everything in their power to take these provinces. The easiest strat would be to destroy Tlemcen and then use Tlemcen as a foothold to get a little bit more of a power base, and then attack with a lot of mercenaries, the Castilians, the Aragonese, and the Portuguese, in order to form, or better yet restore, Andalusia. Despite this being the first nation on this list, I don't have an actual rating of which one's harder than the other. I'm literally just telling you what are the actual hardest nations in the game in no particular order, okay? You decide the order, but whatever the case, these are definitely insane nations to be playing as, so keep that in mind if you decide to play as them. Second off is of course Byzantium. These two nations are pretty much a duo. You cannot say Byzantium is hard without saying Granada is hard. There are countless tutorials, guides, and so on the Byzantines. I have like 1,000 of them myself. I'll link one of them in the description. If you're wondering, whoa Ludi, why didn't you link one that's in the recent update? It's because it's the same strat. It's been the same strat for the past few patches, and I'm tired of pretending it's a new strat. I know it's, you know, you get a lot of views when you make a Byzantium video. Everyone gets excited, and then you present the exactly same strategy. So let me make it easy for you. Either trap the Ottomans in Pont, Cephalonia, Corfu, or any of the other provinces here, which means that they're gonna have their armies there, so you can just carpet siege the rest, or otherwise go for Gelibolu first, and this is pretty much an RNG resistance strat as they call it. Then prevent them access between the Anatolian and the Balkan side. Go full mercs, whatever the case. Do remember, it is not an easy nation to be playing as, and for me it's easy. For other creators that have been playing this nation a lot, it's easy, and for people that have experience in the game and of course have no social life as consequence, it's easy. But for the majority of EU4 players, which maybe have a social life, it's not going to be that easy, so do follow my guide if you want to see how it goes. The benefit that the Byzantines have though is the fact that they start with a lot of cores on the Ottoman Empire, so after your first couple of wars against them, once you get these cores back, it's going to be significantly easier to destroy the Ottomans. Do take note though that you have to do all of that before they reach military tech 5, which is when they start getting insanely strong, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to defeat them afterwards. So you want to take advantage of the early game, push as much as you can in order to destroy the Ottomans earlier in your campaign. Next up is a nation that has one of the coolest flags around. That's right, it's a Varia. We got the wolf on the flag and the moon and all the other schnaps. I love the freaking flag this nation has. I wish more flags were similar to this. Not only that, but they also have a semi-decent sprite, which is unfortunately shared by a few nations in the area, but still it looks cool, okay? I mean, compare this to the Eastern sprites. Come on, it's no degree of comparison. Now, Avaria does have a unique achievement. The Avars at some point in history did own the Pannonian Basin, and they got eventually replaced by the Magyars, or the Hungarians as we know them, later down the line. You got an achievement where you have to take over the Hungarian parts as a Varia, but there's a twist to all of this. There's a reason this nation's on this list, because we start as a vassal of Gazi Communes. Nobody will support your independence, and most likely Gazi Communes are going to get attacked by someone, and if they don't get attacked, it's also extremely likely that they get an alliance with the Ottoman Empire. So then in order for you to just get your independence, you have to fight both the Gazi Communes and the Ottomans as one province minor with 7 development and 2,000 units. Good luck with with that. Suffice to say, there are strats for this. I've done a few streams where I played as a Varia and it worked flawlessly, but it is super RNG, so keep that in mind. It would imply that you have to basically attack for your independence war on the 11th of December, so you would have to go for the free company here and hope that you don't get attacked by Gazikomuns, or try and dodge them in between these two provinces somehow. Alternatively, if you're super lucky and you had a lot of poo-poo when you were a little kid, as they say back in my hometown, maybe that's just Romanians that say that, I don't know. You also might be able to get the Great Horde to support your independence, but the chances of this are like 5% usually, so it would imply a lot of restarts, so it's your choice really. Next up on this list is a very unique nation because it is the only Armenian nation that is still alive in 1444. Talking about Melikatis here, it is a Coptic Armenian nation. However, before we are able to form Armenia, we need to get a lot of provinces, including Adana over here in the south bit of Anatolia, because historically speaking, the Armenians did have a kingdom here, the Cilician Armenians, and the province of Tarsus, or whatever you want to call it, depending on who owns it, right? The main issue you're gonna have though is that you start as a vassal of Karakoyunlu. Karakoyunlu has 18,000 units, you have 2,000, and almost nobody is gonna be supporting your independence. There is a chance that you're gonna get someone to support your independence by improving relations, and that is gonna be the Mamelukes. The Mamelukes are essentially your best chance. Improve those relations, have a little bit of luck, and increase the amount of soldiers that you have is pretty much the only chance that you have. Or you can just go full-on mercenaries, hope to win an early independence war against Karakoyunlu before you go bankrupt with all of your mercs. It is not a nation for the weak of heart, that is for sure, but if you manage to form Armenia as Melikatis, then I heard that they're actually gonna give you Armenian citizenship. I don't know, is it true? Is it just something I invented on the spot? Nobody will ever be the wiser, okay? No one's ever gonna know this. Next up, of course, is England. I'm just kidding, it's not really England. We gotta start as England to play as this nation, because that's right, I'm talking about the releasable nation of the Isle of Man. Go ahead and click play as released subject, and you're gonna start off with this one little province here in Man, a Highlander Catholic nation, and you will be a vassal of England, which can actually be of help because sometimes you would be able to get the French to support your independence. We're not as lucky in this particular save. Realistically, actually, the unknown attitude minus 1000 will go away after I unpause, so it would actually only be 55 and 59. So by improving relations with France, they would in fact support the independence. That being said, even with the French on your side, and they would be doing the heavy lifting, that's for sure, it would still not be super easy. And after getting your independence, you still have to deal with one of the strongest starting nations in EU4, the English, for at least 2 to 3 wars before you're really out of the clear and you're not going to be completely stack and vipened and annexed by them at some point in your campaign. The cool part is that there are some achievements for the Isle of Man and for the Isles, and I want to point out that the Isles are basically the same like the Isle of Man. The difference is Scotland. Truth be told, the Isles are a little bit easier because Scotland's easy to defeat by the Isles, and then you can just annex Scotland and you essentially become Scotland, which is why the Isles is not on this list. But yeah, I just thought of something. I feel like the Isle of Man might be a pretty cool playthrough. Now, since we are in the general vicinity of France, I have to talk about Auvergne. Auvergne is one of the toughest nations in the game, and the reason for that is because it starts as a vassal of France alongside another 4 vassals at the beginning, and then eventually a lot more vassals with Alençon and whatever they get from the Burgundians afterwards. It is super RNG though, because there is a chance that you can get all of the other vassals to support you and all of you become independent and you together take on the French. On the other hand, if RNG doesn't go according to your plans, you can also end up with the French integrating Burgundy in the first few years, and then in order to get your independence, you would have to fight against the entirety of the French region and so on. It's not easy. France is one of the strongest nations, and you would have to defeat them as a 1 province minor that has 10 development. Your advantage would also be that you have a mountain province here, so try and fight your battles in the mountain province. I'm curious how many of you guys have actually done an Auvergne run. I personally never did one. I've done an Orleans one, but I've never done Auvergne. I'm curious if anyone has a picture of all of France owned by Auvergne. learn and you didn't form France. If you do, send me a DM on Discord. And we're back in the Middle East. What do you know? Most of the difficult nations in this video are from the Middle East. Just like modern times, it's not easy living in the Middle East, is it? Well, this nation is very special. It is, of course, Hisn Khalifa. It has an achievement where you gotta basically own all of the Mamluk lands. And the reason for that, by the way, the achievement is called Saladin's Legacy. The reason for that is because Hisn Khalifa is the last holdout of the Ayyubid Caliphate, I guess. It was a caliphate, right? Essentially, the Mamelukes did oust the Ayyubids. The Ayyubids literally owning all of the lands that the Mamelukes own at the start of our campaign. And what was left of the Ayyubids, which were ruled at some point by Kurdish people. Salahuddin was Kurdish himself, and that's why Hisn Khalifa starts as one of the few Kurdish primary culture nations and Sunni. And they have some insane ideas. I mean, the Ayyubid ideas are probably one of my favorite ones from any ideas in the game. You got national tax at the start when it actually matters, as well as shock damage received in an area where most countries have really high shock damage values with their units in the beginning. Most of the Muslim tech, Anatolian and so on, having a lot of shock pips, right? And this mitigates a huge amount of that. So the way that this idea set is structured is really in the best location possible. You also get discipline eventually, core creation cost reduction, goods produced, morale of armies, fort defense, and national manpower. So you really have pretty much the best idea set you can possibly have from both a military and an economic perspective. I have a video on the Hisn Khalifa. It's a little bit older. Nothing has changed since then. It's the same strat. To make it really short, if you don't want to watch the video, you got a no CB Akoyunlu and fully annex an Akoyunlu in the first part of the campaign. That means 11th of December. And yes, Akoyunlu a lot of the times allies the Ottomans. Sadly, it's one of those nations where you have to restart until Akoyunlu does not ally the Ottomans. It is what it is. The only other alternative you have is fighting Karakoyunlu, which is even bigger. And without owning the Akoyunlu lands at the start, it's impossible. Luckily though, you can almost always get an alliance with Dulkadir, and with this alliance, it's a lot easier destroying Akoyunlu since they will focus a little bit on Dulkadir's. Up next is Manicure. Wait, no, Manicure, Manipur. Mani, now let's move on. So, Manipur over here starts as a one province minor. You have a good old 5 development, and here's the kicker, boys. It is an animist nation and Chin culture. Are they related to the Habsburgs? I am so confusion right now. If you take a good look at the religious map mode, you're actually the only animist nation. So good luck finding friends, my boy. Good luck with that. There is an achievement for Manipur, which is awesome because it's gonna take you a while to get that achievement. But rest assured, with a little bit of fast action, you can actually survive. The starting position is insanely bad though. You're essentially trapped in between Ava and their multiple tributaries here, as well as Bengal to the west of your country. So you gotta be really fast. You have to annex Tripura, Kachar, Assam, Sadia, and Kosh as soon as possible. And then your saving grace would likely be just going to Tibet and forming Tibet, becoming a horde once you form Tibet with the Tibetan mission tree. And then as Tibet, actually get that achievement by going back into India and kicking the Bengali asses. The veterans in our community are very well aware of that strat. It is a very established strat. It's also one of the strats that you do for Eat Your Greens as the nation of Kale. Literally no difference. Kale is just a tributary of Ava. That's pretty much it. It's actually a little bit bigger than Manipur, so you got that going for you. But Kale does have both of its provinces animist, whilst the religion is Theravada, so they do have some religious problems, I guess. We also need to talk about the 3 stooges over here. I'm talking about Koho, Radi, and Jirai. Yep, that's right. 3 nations you never heard of, even though you've been playing EU4 for 4,000 hours. You still learned of the existence of these nations. I mean, I know you knew that there's 3 new nations added since Leviathan in this area, but you never freaking knew their names, did you? Don't lie to me. I know you didn't know their names. I know it. Now, these boyos here do have... Oh my god, look at that sprite. Oh, that is absolutely glorious. I'm sorry, I digress. That caught me unexpectedly right there. So, they do start as stateless societies, which is a special government reform, where you get minus 99% government capacity modifier, but you also get morale of armies and fort defense plus 75. So it's gonna take a while to siege their cities down. Doesn't matter which one of the 3 stooges you start as, they all have 6 development, pretty much the same trade good, tea, and copper, which is why I chose to tag into Radi over here, because they got the special one. They got copper, they got the copper color on the map, and they got the copper sprites. Clearly, Radi is the true successor of the stooges. You also can form Malaya as the stooges here for some reason. I really don't know why, but I guess it's something that most of the nations here can form. Wait, are we Malayan culture? Oh, we are in the same Indonesian Malayan culture group. Okay, that's interesting. I never knew Champa was a part of that culture group. See, that's something I learned as well today. I guess we're all learning something with this video, aren't we, boys and girl? Boys and girl. Realistically speaking, you do have only one choice here, but here's the kicker, boys, and the reason why these nations are probably top 3, top 4 hardest nations on this list. Everybody around you is a tributary of Ming. Look at that. Every single body around is a tributary. You attack Champa, you gotta fight Ming. You attack Khmer, you gotta fight Ming. So literally, after you've unified the Stooge lands, there's nothing else you can do. You have to wait for one of these nations to attack you, and if that happens, well, it's pretty obvious that it's not gonna be good for you, is it? So your choice would probably be to mark up the moment that they attack you and have a fortification ready where you can bait them and fight them in that defensive location, right? Because not only that, but nobody wants to ally you also. Look at that. The closest we have to an ally is Muangfang. And I know, I pronounced that perfectly. And even Muangfang, boys, doesn't really like us that much. After we improve relations, get some more units hired, probably we'll get the alliance. But in case you didn't know, Muangfang is a one province miner that would likely get killed by Vietnam or by Lan Chang. So this is a dangerous location to be in. Up next is, of course, the previous most difficult nation in the world, well, in the game, but now it's not anymore the most difficult because something happened. So originally, boys, the nation of Sukhothai over here is a 3-province minor on which Ayutthaya has cores on and which Ayutthaya annexes within the first few years via an event. So the way it used to work is you start as a vassal of Ayutthaya, and after 4 or 5 years, whenever your leader dies, Ayutthaya automatically integrates you via an event. In order to prevent that, you had to attack Ayutthaya in an independence war, and then you would also have to fight not only Ayutthaya and Ligor, but you would have to fight the Ming, because Ayutthaya is a tributary of Ming. That has changed, so now because we are a vassal of Ayutthaya, we only have to fight Ayutthaya and Ligor, but it gets even better, because now when the event happens as Sukhothai, instead of Ayutthaya annexing you, the reverse happens. You basically take a huge chunk of Ayutthaya because of the same event, making Sukhothai one of the easiest nations in this area as consequence, with a false hard start. That's why I just wanted to mention this, because in my previous hardest nations video, I did say that is really hard, but that has changed since then, so keep that in mind. Next up is everybody's favorite Teutonic order, the Knights of Rhodes. Yes, that's right, I just called the Knights of Rhodes Teutonic order. Are you mad about it? Tell me how you feel in the comment section right now. Do it! Do it right now. Tell me how upset you are. Now, clearly, this nation should be on every single list and every video because of that insanely cool sprite. Look at that soldier boy over there. Holy snaps. I need you to crusade me right now, boy. Was that too far? No, that might have been a little bit too far, maybe. The Knights start off with one province in Rhodes. They got a core in Sugla, and they basically do have to fight against the Ottoman Empire in order to survive. They have an ace up their sleeve, though, in the fact that they are an independent nation still. And they can, of course, have a few wars before they have to go to war with the Ottomans. Essentially, you do have the option of attacking Byzantium, taking the south part of Greece for yourself, and letting them keep Constantinople. Or, alternatively, if you want to get the achievement, you can take the city of Constantinople for yourself and let them keep one province or a few provinces here, and then feed them back the cores from the Ottomans in your first war against the Ottomans. The strategy with the war against the Ottomans is identical to the Byzantine one. You just use the Byzantines as your little core dump. Is that an okay accepted term to use here? Core dump? I will use it from now on, so I hope it's accepted. Let's face it though, everybody in the Mediterranean, one way or another, does use the Byzantines to get their cores and destroy the Ottomans in the process. Why would Knights be any different? It's the same shenapadaboop. The Knights also has a really cool mission tree that can give you provinces for free. For example, you can get the province of Malta if you just improve relations with the Aragonese. And lucky for you, they kind of like you from the beginning. You just got to get a bigger army, bigger navy, and bigger PP. I might have added the PP in there. You don't really need it. But yeah, once you get all that schnapps, you will get the province of Malta for free, and then after you get Malta as your core, you can just expand and destroy the Tunisians, the Moroccans. You can even go into the New World if you want to. And the cool part is that the Knights are one of the few nations in the games that can raid coastlines. That's right, this video was sponsored by Raid Knights of Malta, boys. Raid Knights of Malta. You can use the link below to go on a crusade, okay? Click, you heathen bastard. You know, I'm really starting to see a trend with nations being hard if they're close to the Ottoman Empire. I don't know why that is, but there's a few of them, let's say, because next up is, of course, Theodoro. And I'm not gonna blabber on about the sprite. Yeah, it's cool and all that, but what's cool about Theodoro is really the map color here. I mean, holy purple, my boys. Imagine using purple, one of the most expensive colors in history, as your own national color. This is just in EU4, by the way. Historically speaking, the Principality of Theodoro, I don't even know what it was, probably a county or something, was a lot smaller. If you look at the map, it would have been like this small on the actual map. That's the entire size of Theodoro in 1444, and it was a Greek/Gothic nation. It did have some Goths, but the administration and most of the people ruling it were actually Greeks, the remnants of the Byzantine administration that had, you know, disappeared since the Byzantines got their asses kicked left and right and they couldn't control anything really. So let's get back to EU4 now. I got too excited talking about history there, my apologies. Theodoro starts with a really peculiar start. Yeah, that's just top level English, boys. That is, I am of the smart, okay? Just don't think about it. We have two options here. We can either go full on against the Crimeans, or they can attack us, but most likely we will attack them. And then we can annex the Crimeans and just replace them and just continue to expand in the Horde lands, which is possible. And then we snake our way to Tibet, do what we did as Manipur, form Tibet, become a Horde, and then come back and go over and take the Germanic lands to do the achievement. Alternatively, what you can also do is you can vassalize East Frisia or one of the Irish one province miners, and then attack one of their neighbors, take the province for yourself, lose the province that you have in Theodoro at the start, and that way you can switch on over your capital to the new province that you gained, but you could not core because it was out of coring range, but you still had. If that doesn't make sense, watch my Theodoro video. It's in the description. I explain it a lot better in that particular video. I'm gonna settle a score here because I don't think anyone has ever put this nation in any sort of a video before, and I feel like that's not really just for them because they're a really cool nation with one of my personal favorite flags in the game, Makuria here. Makuria starts as one of the Coptic nations in the upper Egyptian part, well, historical upper Egyptian part really, because now we're not in the Pharaoh times. But anyway, the point is that they're Coptic. They have the city of Casa Ibrim, which is one of the holy cities for the Copts, and it's going to be a pain to actually convert this over to Coptic, since, you know, we need more conversion speed. 256 months. Holy mother of schnapadoops. Now, Makuria has two provinces, altogether 9 development. It almost always gets destroyed by the Mamluks in the first 10 to 15 years. If you're lucky and that doesn't happen, then you have to be insanely fast with conquering Beja, Dongola, Angola, Adiola, Alodia, Bolola, Shmagagadebola, and then you're gonna die to the Ethiopians. How the game really always goes as Makuria, which is probably why this nation's in the actual top 3 hardest nations in the game, and why you haven't probably seen any Makurian videos out there up until now, because it's really a hard nation to play as. It also does not have any insane flavor to speak of. You got the standard Nubian missions. You can form Nubia, and that actually can be done pretty early on. You just need to get the provinces here, so with a little bit of luck you can form Nubia super fast, like I'm talking 5 years. But you do start with the Nubian national ideas. There's no actual mission tree. There's only a interesting government reform though, so you got that going for you. I think there's an achievement too, if I'm not mistaken, where you gotta conquer as Nubia all of the Mamluk lands. I did that as Alodia a while back. You'll find a link to that video as well in the description, and it was pretty fun. But I didn't do it as Makuria because I do have a social life, because, you know, I have a wife and I go out sometimes once a month, so that's a social life. You be quiet now. Trapped in between the Ottoman Empire and the Byzantines is Athens. Yep, that's right. You want to play hardcore? You want to show everybody you're a real man? Then get a job and stop playing EU4. But that's beside the point. If you want to show people that you are good at EU4, you could play as Athens. And yeah, you start as a vassal of the Byzantines. So first, you got to become independent. Take note, the Byzantines also start with the core on your capital. So in roughly 10 years, they're going to automatically integrate you in 1 month. So you got 10 years to become independent, and aside from becoming independent, you got to fight the Ottomans, you got to fight the Byzantines before that, you got to fight most likely the Venetians that will attack you. It is really, really tough, and the achievement to get for Athens, which I think is to get a university or something, is not difficult, the achievement, you just got to survive, really. And it is super RNG. Most of the times, nobody supports your independence either. You could, if you really reloaded like a freaking 1,000 times, maybe get the Venetians to support your independence, or even the Ottomans. It did happen in the past. I don't know if it still happens in this patch. I know it used to happen in like 130, 131 and stuff, so there's that going on. But the bottom line is that considering Byzantium's on this list, being the vassal of Byzantium kind of makes you think, doesn't it? This nation is freaking horrible to play as. Although not as bad as the Athenians, up next is Navarra, a nation trapped in between Aragon, Castile, and England, the 3 strongest nations in Western Europe, if we don't include the French, of course. So I guess the 3 out of 4 strongest in Western Europe. Whatever, okay? The point is that you're gonna get schnapple-duped, my son. You're gonna get real schnapple-duped. Not only that, but once your leader dies, who, by the way, is the heir of Aragon, Juan II. See the same guy here, 410, 410. Once he dies, you can become a junior partner of the Aragonese, or you can just get claims on the Aragonese. There's that option as well. But then the Aragonese might enforce the PU on you. So you're only surviving chance, or in surviving grace, really, whatever you want to call it, is to get an alliance with Castile and then attack Aragon. You can usually give them land in the war, or at least promise to give them land, and then just take these 4 provinces that you need. After you got that, you get claims on the entirety of Iberia. You actually have a pretty interesting mission tree. Although it is hard, the start is Navarra. I have a video on this, by the way. You'll have it in the description. It is not impossible, and having the Castilians help you makes a massive difference. I would say this is probably mid-level hard compared to most of the nations on this list. But boys, no nation says hard and difficult as this nation up next. In my opinion, this is likely one of the toughest starts out there because of the position, because of a lot of reasons. And yes, you guessed it, I'm talking about I'm talking about Naxos. I'm talking about Naxos. Let's calm down here, please. Naxos is at the start a vassal of the Venetians. Now, Naxos starts as a 6th development Catholic nation that has only an Orthodox province that is Greek, which is not even the primary culture. Naxos' primary culture is Venetian. Historically speaking, the Duchy of Naxos was created by the Venetians in order to facilitate control of these areas. It was also known as the Duchy of the Aegean, not only the Naxos, because it had 2 provinces. It had 2 islands, really, talking about Paros and Naxos. It did have a lot of smaller other islands too. That's why the Aegean, you know, a lot of islands in the Aegean. But Paros and Naxos were the biggest of these. It was created after the 4th Crusade, when they pretty much Schnapple duped the Byzantines and the Latin Empire popped out and schnaps. So it's been around for a while, and it's basically a vassal of the Venetians. That's why in EU4 you gotta break away from the Venetians, stop being their vassal, so you have to go for your independence war. And Venice is not a cakewalk, boys. Venice is extremely strong at the beginning. They have a much bigger fleet than you have. You only have 5 ships. The Venetians have a lot more. And after you do that, your only saving grace would be to expand in Byzantium, but most likely by the point that you can actually attack Byzantium, they're gonna be gone because the Ottomans will have eaten them, and then you have to deal with the Ottomans. So let's just say that if you're really, really lucky and you have the best RNG in the world, the most positive outcome would be to flee somewhere around the Mediterranean islands, or maybe you do the old switcheroo, you CB one of the Irish nations, or East Frisia if it's still around and it's not in the HRE, and then you do what you do as the Theodorians, exactly the same strat. Because if you stay here in the island of Naxos, even if you won, let's say, against the Venetians and you maybe got Crete or something, it is only a matter of time until until the Ottoman Empire will completely crush you. I have not done an Naxos run myself. I have tested it a few times and I know firsthand that it is absolutely insanely difficult. You also most likely will not get anyone to support your independence. Even with the Hungarians, by the time that you get that relations up, it is very likely they fall in a PU or they're just not interested in supporting you anymore. If we get 10,000 likes on this video, which I know will not happen, that's why I'm asking for 10,000, then I'll stream a proper Naxos run on YouTube. I'll make it a YouTube stream so you guys can all see it, and then we'll try together to see how we can actually break away and not die to the Ottomans as this insanely difficult nation. And hey, if you enjoyed the videos, I really want to thank you for being a part of this community. Doing these videos has really changed my life, and it was only possible because of all of your support, all of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you've done. And if you guys want to watch me live sometimes, chill with me, chat with me, I do try to stream as often as possible on Twitch. I do the occasional YouTube stream too, but I mostly do my streams on Twitch. You'll find a link to that in the description if you want to join me over there. And until the next time, check out this amazing Ottoman run. And I want to give a massive thank you to all of my patrons, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I would not be able to do this without all your support.